If you have been instilled with divine righteousness and the overwhelming urge to completely obliterate the disgusting and vile forces of wickedness that make the fatal mistake of crossing your path, you have come to the right video, my friend. That's right, it's your boy. Today, we are creating the definitive Oath of Vengeance Paladin build with the ultimate vow to purge evil. Welcome to the channel. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more builds and content. If you have a specific build you would like to see, definitely let me know down below as I read every single comment. More likely than not, your build suggestion will be added to the schedule. I'm also very active and post every day over on the community tab with polls, updates, pictures, and such, and I'd love to see you over there as well. With that being said, thank you for stopping by. Now let's get into it. Character creation in level 1. Before we dive into leveling, spells, and what have you, we must create our character. Play what you want to look at for 100 hours. It's just that simple. You don't want to choose an orc because it has min-max racial passives and then hate your character halfway through the game. I have another thing to say about min-max. I highly recommend you play any RPG game specifically for fun. Completely forget about the concept of what metagaming even is. In my humble opinion, metagaming and min-maxing can actually ruin a game in many cases. Diablo. And with that being said, the half-orc and Zariel tiefling races are the best choices if you want the extra passives for your build. Half-orcs get Relentless Endurance, which is basically a free auto-revive once per long rest. They also get Dark Vision, which is your standard See in the Dark passive, and they also get Savage Attack, which is extremely overpowered. When you land a critical hit with a melee, you deal an extra dice of weapon damage, so this can be pretty devastating. Something to consider. And for Zariel tieflings, we get Hellish Resistance, Searing Smite, which we will already get, but you also have another one, Dark Vision of course, and Branding Smite. We will get Searing Smite and Branding Smite as a paladin, but think of these as like extra. If I were to choose between these two, I would go for the half orc, but ultimately I like to insert myself into a lot of games, so I went with human as usual. Now over here at backgrounds, this is another choice that comes down to preference and how you would like to roleplay your character throughout the game. My favorite choices for a paladin would be Noble for the history and persuasion skills, Soldier for athletics and intimidation, and Guild Artisan for insight and persuasion. Pick what meshes best with what you want to roleplay your character like. For my build, I will be using Soldier, although I can highly recommend one of the other two choices I've laid out as the proficiencies they come with are extremely useful, insight in particular. Personally, I would rate Guild Artisan as the best for a paladin build. For your skills over here, I recommend taking persuasion, perception, and insight. Now for our abilities, we will clear this, bring our strength to 16, our dexterity to 10, constitution to 14, intelligence leave that at 8, wisdom up to 10, and charisma up to 16. Level 1. The Oath of Vengeance Paladin is a single target death machine that makes use of debuffs. We start the game with Lay on Hands, which is a paladin exclusive healing spell that you will be using the entire game. You can also cure yourself or an ally with this ability. Lay on Hands charges restore every long rest, so be mindful. We also get Divine Sense, which is one of my favorite abilities to use as it is a bonus action, does not use a spell slot, and gives you advantage on attacks against celestials, fiends, and undead. Do not ignore this one. Similar to a cleric's Channel Divinity, the paladin gets Channel Oath charges and spells. These restore on short and long rests. Our first Channel Oath ability comes in the form of Inquisitor's Might, a powerful buff that gives you or an ally an additional 2 radiant damage on your attacks, as well as giving you a chance to daze your target. While it doesn't seem like much, this is an incredible buff in the early game, and especially if you're playing on Tactician. And then obviously we have our Oath of Vengeance tenets. Basically, purge evil. Level 2. At level 2, you'll get your first 3 smites and 2 level 1 spell slots to use them with. Be mindful of your spell usage in the early game and even into the late game, as paladins are a notoriously spell-starved class. In turn, the paladin is able to deal extreme amounts of burst damage. We get the Divine Smite, which can be activated after any successful hit. I highly recommend enabling all smite passives with the box checked to ask. Make sure to only use your smites on high priority targets unless necessary otherwise, or unless otherwise necessary. We also get 5 slots to prepare spells with. Level 2 Paladin comes with 3 other smites as well, each with their own utility and each expending a bonus action as well as a normal action. I recommend preparing all 3. Searing Smite for fire damage and damage over time. Thunderous Smite is particularly useful because not only does it do big damage, you will also push the target back a bit bit and possibly prone them as well. If you watched my Golden Age Guts build, you may already know how much I love to utilize the prone mechanic, or abuse it. This smite will set your next attack up for huge damage and or enable nearby allies to duck away without using disengage. Keep this smite prepared for the entire game. Finally, we have Wrathful Smite, which is the most situational out of the smites in my opinion, as many enemies throughout the game seem to be pretty decent at resisting Frightened, which is a wisdom save, so be mindful of when to use this smite and when not to. For our next prepared spell, we will be using Divine Favor, which is a bonus action buff that adds 1 to 4 radiant damage to your attacks for 2 turns and also requires concentration. Incredibly useful in the early game. Finally, for the last prepared spell at this level, I would recommend Heroism for the extra 5 health points or Command. Personally, I take Command for versatility. For fighting style, choose Great Weapon Fighting, as this build will make use of the Great Weapon Master feat later in the game, at level 8 in particular. Level 3. At level 3, you will unlock your 3rd level 1 spell slot along with another prepared spell. Additionally, you gain Divine Health, which prevents disease, and we also get 2 more Channel Oath abilities in Abjure Enemy and Vow of Enmity. Abjure Enemy is used to frighten your target. If they pass the saving throw, they'll be slowed instead, which makes this ability very powerful. Being a paladin, fiends and undead have disadvantage on this saving throw. Vow of Enmity, on the other hand, is one of my absolute favorite abilities in the entire game, as the paladin essentially selects an enemy on the battlefield and vows to annihilate it. Vow of Enmity simply gives you advantage on attack rolls against a selected target and is a bonus action. It is also something I highly recommend using very often. This ability will make it extremely easy for us to abuse the Great Weapon Master passive later in the game. We also get 2 paladin spells, which are both debuffs in the form of Hunter's Mark and Bane. Bane is the opposite of Bless and gives the targets a minus 1d4 on their attack rolls and saving throws. Personally, I don't use this spell much, but there are times where it may be useful. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Hunter's Mark is one of my favorite spells in the game, as it gives you an additional 1 to 6 damage of your weapon's damage type on the targeted creature. Although it does require concentration, if you're able to maintain it, you're able to cast this spell over and over without using another spell slot. Hunter's Mark is also a bonus action, making it extremely useful and versatile. Make good use of it. For our 6th prepared spell, we will be adding Heroism or Command, whichever you didn't choose last time. At this level, I highly recommend using your buffs and debuffs along with the basic melee attacks as opposed to using smites. Save your smites for priority enemies and bosses. Being level 3, the Paladin is already extremely versatile on the battlefield and is generally prepared for anything. If you're having trouble, consider dropping Command for Shield of Faith. Level 4. Level 4 is quick, simple, and important. We gain an additional Lay on Hands charge for our heals, another prepared spell, and our first feat. For our 7th prepared spell, we'll be equipping Protection from Evil and Good. Use this in times of hardship when battling the listed entities. For our first feat, we'll be increasing our strength to 18 with ability improvement level 5. At level 5, we cross the threshold from being a rookie into a full-blown demon killing machine with more spells, more utility, and most importantly, extra attack. As the name suggests, this allows you to attack twice, enabling double smites per turn. You gain 1 level 1 spell slot, 2 level 2 spell slots, and now have a total of 8 prepared spells. At this level, we will unprepare Command in favor of Lesser Restoration, and we will also add Branding Smite as well. Use Lesser Restoration if an ally gets caught in paralysis. This is generally the only time I tend to use this spell during combat, but is extremely useful. Branding Smite is the next smite we unlock and is extremely powerful, especially during Act 2 and in dark locations such as the Underdark, specifically because it marks your target with light and will also prevent it from turning invisible. You'll know exactly when to use this smite when the time comes. We also unlock 2 more Paladin spells at this level, Hold Person and Misty Step. Hold Person is the best argument we have for dropping Command, as this is an extremely powerful spell that will completely paralyze humanoid enemies so long as you maintain concentration, and it also guarantees melee attacks to become critical. It is a level 2 spell, so be mindful of when you use it and also your hit chance. Misty Step is one of my favorite spells in the entire game, and I personally use it in almost every fight to immediately close the gap between the Paladin and the priority enemy. Aside from that, this spell is also very valuable with other uses such as escaping combat and reaching unreachable places. Level 6. At level 6, we gain our first aura called Aura of Protection. Now, auras are passive buffs that must manually be activated, but after that, they stay activated unless you die or go unconscious or something like that. combat. Aura of Protection gives you and allies within 3 meters a bonus to saving throws that is equal to the Paladin's Charisma modifier. Beautiful. We also gain our 9th prepared spell, which will be anything you'd like, as I don't have a particular suggestion here. In my experience, the Paladin is already more than fully equipped for this level, and your spell slots are best used on the spells that you've already been using. All intents and purposes, we will just add command. Level 7. Level 7 is yet another short, simple level up. We gain another level 2 spell slot, our 10th prepared spell, and Relentless Avenger. Relentless Avenger is a passive in which if the Paladin strikes an enemy with opportunity attack, the Paladin gains 4.5 meters of movement on their next turn. If this procs, use the extra movement speed to close any gaps if necessary. For our 10th prepared spell, once again, choose what you wish. At this level, I'm still using all of my spell slots on the spells we've had since level 5. Level 8. At level 8, we gain another prepared spell slot of your choice once again for the same reason as the previous 2 levels. We also gain our 2nd feat, which will be Great Weapon Master. After attaining this feat, you will be able to do extreme amounts of damage and gain a 3rd attack that uses your bonus action. So make sure to buff at the start of combat, as this bonus action attack will proc after a critical hit or after killing an enemy. Make sure to turn your Great Weapon Master passive off when you have a low chance of hitting, and turn it on when you have a higher chance of hitting, or if you have advantage on the enemy. With the passive on, you'll have a -5 penalty to your attack rolls, but in turn, you'll get a +10 increase to damage. This is why we will only activate this passive when we know for certain we will hit, or if we're just feeling a little froggy. Level 9. At this level, you will gain 2 level 3 spell slots and another prepared spell. Remove the 3 previous spells you had prepared, and now we will prepare Blinding Smite, Elemental Weapon, Crusader's Mantle, and remove Curse. Blinding Smite is our next heavy damage dealer and comes with a chance to blind the target, which is incredibly powerful. Use this when you're ready to absolutely destroy the enemy. I prefer to use this smite on tanky melee enemies. Elemental Weapon is a buff that enables the Paladin's weapon to deal an extra 1d4 damage of a chosen element. I recommend applying this buff before a big fight, but only if necessary. Crusader's Mantle is another buff that gives your allies an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage on their attacks, so basically divine favor, but for your allies. We won't be using this much, but it can come in handy at times, so we have it there. Remove Curse is another one of my favorite spells in the game, although it is extremely simple. Remove Curse is a simple utility that removes curses and hexes from yourself or an ally. I always keep this spell prepared, as you never know when you'll need it. Do not unprepare this spell. At level 9, we also get 2 more Paladin spells in the forms of Haste and Protection from Energy. Protection from Energy is just like the other protection spells, except this one will give us resistance to a chosen element. Don't forget you have this spell, as it will be useful against certain enemies later in the game. Do not apply unless necessary. Finally, we arrive at the goated Haste. I highly recommend applying this buff to yourself at the start of a fight or before big fights. With Haste, we get +2 to our armor class, advantage on dexterity saving throws, doubled movement speed, and it also gives us an additional action. With this buff active, we can now attack 5 times in a single turn, which is absolutely busted. This is a level 3 spell, so be mindful of that. Level 10. The last few levels of the Paladin class are a bit lackluster, but round off the build proper. At level 10, we gain another Lay on Hands charge, another prepared spell, and our next aura, Aura of Courage. Aura of Courage simply makes it so that you and allies within 3 meters of you cannot be frightened. Simple but effective. For our 13th prepared spell, we will add Warden of Vitality as a just in case. Only use this when absolutely necessary, as it takes up a level 3 spell slot. Level 11. At level 11, we gain a well-deserved level 3 spell slot, another prepared spell, and Improved Divine Smite. Improved Divine Smite is a simple passive buff that makes your attacks deal an additional 1 to 8 radiant damage, so just Paladin shit. And for our 14th prepared spell, we will add Command or Bless. This is entirely up to you. Same strategies since level 9. Level 12. Finally, we arrive at max level 12. We gain another prepared spell, in which you can use anything you'd like, as I have no recommendations for this level. Our last feat will be Ability Improvement to increase our strength to 20 to cap off our build. The only other feat I would consider taking is Alert, which gives you a +5 bonus to initiative and makes it so you cannot be surprised. And there you have it, folks, the definitive Oath of Vengeance Paladin build. For the last few levels, consider multi-classing into something like Fighter for action surge, although I still recommend fully leveling Paladin for the the last feat. If you do decide to multi-class, consider at what level, if you lose any feats, and what spells you might lose or abilities you'd gain in their place. I will be uploading several Paladin multi-class builds, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on those. Leave a comment down below and let me know what builds you want to see next. Like if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, and dislike if otherwise. With that being said, I will now bid you further adieu, and until next time, purge evil.
Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah, crown in my palm, but I ain't put it on. Yeah.